It's Saturday, July 11th, 2026. Recorded live from the English Valleys History Center. Here's Jackie.
Hi, I'm Jackie Geringer McDermott, and we've already had a busy morning here at the History Center. Karen Kaufman's daughter, Crystal Edgar, and her daughter Shanda were here, and they donated some things that had belonged to Harold and Catherine Kaufman from South English. One of these things is a quilt, and it was evidently by the women from the church over there. One person's name that I know that is on it is Connie Brubaker. So we're going to have some more history on what that's all about, Connie. You stop by sometime and tell us. And this is the South English High School class of 1934. It doesn't have any names on it. We know that one of them is probably Harold Kaufman, and we're going to need some more help identifying that. I want to thank Crystal and her family for those donations. They're very nice. And I brought 75 years of Sacred Heart Church and family from Kinross. I'm going to donate that, and hopefully that it gets digitized so that we've got that forever. And I'm also donating compiled by the Sacred Heart Altar and Rosary Society 1977 from Kinross. This has some great recipes by people like Father Spiegel and Edith Bauer, and well, you can imagine who all's in there. Now we're going to start with the diaries, and before I start with the diaries, I want to tell you that we will be finishing up the 1950 diary soon, and then we will be going to 1954. January 26, 1954, she writes, "I will start a new book." So there's no 1951, 1952, or 53 books. They probably did exist at one time, but they weren't in the package that was donated to the History Center. If anybody has any idea at all if those exist, we'd love to have them to copy and use. This diary was written by Libby Wade. She was my dad's great aunt, and her full name was Mary Elizabeth Claypool Wade. She was 76 years old in 1950. She lived in a house on East Oak Street in North English, Iowa with her son, Russell Wade. Here's a picture of Lib when she was younger. Thanksgiving Day, November 23rd, 1950. The coldest day we have had so far this fall. Clear and bright, windy. Temperature around 0 with colder predicted. I thought it was better that I stay at home today. The rest are to go to Hazel's. Russell went too. They had a splendid dinner. I know, for they sent some to me. Turkey and duck, I think. Pie and cake and fruit salad. I had eaten dinner, so put what was sent back for supper. I had chicken and dressing and cranberry sauce here at home.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi, Alan. As you can see, we're still getting quite a few people in here. Russell Wade is Liv's youngest son, and she lives in his house with him. Hazel Cobb, who hosted her family for Christmas, is Liv's granddaughter, who is married to Glenn Cobb and lives on a farm west of town. We ate supper and Russell went away. Talked to Hattie. She had Irma Dansdale and Rosa Secor as her guests today. Levon and Leona were away. Hattie Newberry Killian is Lib's friend from over on Boland Avenue who runs a boarding house. Hattie had 2 friends over for Thanksgiving. Levon Bursler is Hattie's nephew, and he and his bride, Leona Morse Bursler, live in the house with her. Levon and Leona would eventually own this home for many years. I received a letter today from Ida Welch. She lives in Omaha. We were schoolgirls together and the same age. Dan, you want to shut that door? Hattie said she brought Dick Wilkins. She thought Dick Wilkins is to go to Mason City Sunday if the weather is favorable. Dick Wilkins has been a boarder in Hattie's home, but now his health has declined, and he will be moved to Mason City to a retirement home run by the International Order of Odd Fellows, or IOOF. Heard on the radio that General MacArthur and his army have entered North Korea. A delegation from China are to be in Washington to talk over peace plans to arrive soon. General Douglas MacArthur was a hero in World War II. During the Korean War, he led the United Nations Command with initial success, but suffered a series of major defeats after China's entry into the war in October 1950. MacArthur was contentiously removed from his command in Korea by President Harry S. Truman in April 1951. November 24th, 1950. Cold. Was 4 degrees below zero last evening in Cedar Rapids. Perhaps colder in the night. Cold yet today, about 12 degrees or 14 degrees above zero. Cloudy too. The wind is not so bad, so not so hard to keep the house warm. My foot has hurt worse than usual. I suppose the cold air causes it. We had cold chicken and dressing for supper. I cooked potatoes and turnips and hot chicken gravy, some pie and cranberry sauce. Plenty good enough. I have been crocheting a little. I spent the afternoon reading and crocheting. No one in until Harwood brought the paper. He thinks he will stop carrying it the first of the year. A tiresome job, no doubt. Harwood Hogendorn, or David Harwood Hogendorn, was the second oldest son of newspaper publisher Carl Hogendorn and his wife Bertilla. He was in the class of 1957 from English Valley's high school, and I believe he had a job carrying the Cedar Rapids Gazette. And here is a picture of Harwood Hogendorn by himself. He was later known as David Hogendorn. Jenny came up a while in the evening. We had oysters for supper. She wouldn't eat with us. Jenny Wade is Lib's daughter-in-law, who lives a block away. Russell went down to Ayers' garage to see the new 1951 Ford on display there. Ayers' garage was owned by Lloyd Ayers, and he was still in business until 1952. They were on the south end of Main Street on the east side, south of the Orpheum Theater, and before the hotel. The building was still there in the 1960s when I walked to school. And here's a picture of those 1951 Fords like Russell went to see. Hattie called over. She is expecting her aunt, Jenny, to come on the bus this evening. She has been visiting in Minneapolis. Jenny Harper is the widow of Hattie's uncle Clyde Harper. She is in the back left in this picture. My parents were married on this day in 1859. It was Thanksgiving Day. They were married in Round Head, Ohio, and went to Urbana for their wedding trip to visit father's aunt, a Mrs. Powell. Ruth, I believe, was her name. Jonathan and Anne Mariah Hinkle Claypool were Lib's parents. They are shown in this picture with Lib in the center, and her older brothers and sister with their spouses in about 1894. 11 degrees below zero this morning, 21 above the high today. November 25th, 1950. Cloudy, not so cold. Snow in eastern part of U.S., very deep in Philadelphia. Traffic has stopped, the worst snowstorm ever had there. I talked to Hazel this a.m. She is coming into town and will do some errands for me. My foot is not quite so bad today, but it is hard for me to do the work. Mary Ann was in a while. She got stamps for me. We'll be ready to mail my cards now. Mary Newhouse is a neighbor who often runs errands for Lib, too. Lib is getting ready to start mailing out her Christmas cards. Hazel and Bobby came. They have gone uptown now. Bobby Cobb was the little boy that Hazel and Glenn Cobb adopted. Maud was in a while. She said Elna left today from Marengo to go back to Washington, D.C. Marion is improving some, can now lift her hand that has been helpless for so long. She is to go to Vets Hospital in Des Moines for a checkup. Maud Claypool is a neighbor and is married to Lib's nephew, Ray Claypool. Elna and Marion are Maud's nieces, the daughters of Ray's brother, Roy Claypool, and his wife, Gail Butler Claypool. The three oldest girls were Marion, Kathleen, and Elna, who were all in the service, and the youngest was Artis. Elna, on the right side of this picture, was evidently taking the train from Marengo back to Washington, D.C., where she was stationed with the Waves. In 1951, in Hawaii, Elna married Paul DeJordy. Her oldest sister, Marion, the second from the left, has been incapacitated by a stroke and will spend the rest of her life living with her parents. Gloria Agnew is in the hospital. Kidney infection, I heard. Gloria Agnew was married to the son of Lib's neighbor to the east, Minnie Agnew. Hazel made 2 trips uptown for me. I wanted a wherever kettle, but she didn't find it, so I'll wait. A wherever tea kettle looked like this. Tracy stopped in. She was pretty cold. It was quite a walk for her to come uptown. She was over to Carl's for Thanksgiving with Orville's. Tracy Wallace was Lib's friend and also my paternal great-grandmother. She is shown here with Orville. Tracy lived at 233 East Washington Street, or Smoky Row as we call it. But that house did not have the front addition, the back deck, or any of that cement in those days. Tracy went to Thanksgiving with her grandson Orville and his wife Mary Ann and 2 young sons, Frankie Carl Geringer and Jerry Geringer. Here is a picture of Frankie Carl Geringer, or Frank Geringer, who died in an accident in 1959 at the age of 14. And Orville, Mary Ann, Jerry, and their youngest son Tim later in life. Hosting the Thanksgiving meal was Tracy's son, Carl Geringer, and his family. Orville is on the right side of the picture in the front row, and Carl is on the left side of the picture. Tracy and her second husband, Frank Wallace, raised Orville in their home after Orville's birth mother, Ada Welch Geringer, died when he was an infant. Russell brought home a protector for the stove, a sort of mat to set things on. Hazel said that she was getting one for me for Christmas, so if she does, I will use this one someplace else. The Bursler boys brought us a chicken, $1.50. Russell went to town to buy some new clothes. Sunday, November 26, 1950. Clear, cold, windy, terrible snowstorms in eastern U.S. None here. Wayne, Walter, Leighton, and Frankie Knipfer took Dick Wilkins to Mason City today to enter the Oddfellows' home there. He has been staying at Hattie's for some time. The men that took Dick Wilkins were Lib's son, Wayne or Perky Wade, shown here with his great-granddaughter, Suzanne Kurtz. Walter or Bud Wade, who is Wayne's son. Lib's nephew, Leighton or Happy Claypool, shown here with his wife Gertie. And Frankie Knipfer. There's Frank and Dolores Knipfer. Harold was in a while. They took Barbara to Sigourney yesterday to see Dr. Doyle. She has a cold and some asthma. He gave her some med and told them of some precautions to take. They are to have some of Melva's there today. Harold, or Stub Wade, is Lib's grandson. He is married to Melva Hudipole, and they are parents of Barbara, who is almost 2 years old. Here's a picture of Lib and her great-granddaughter, Barbara Wade. The church that was the Yankee Point Church is to be dedicated today in Parnell. It is to be known as the Mission Church now. I wish I could attend, but I can't. I was present when it was dedicated at Yankee Point in 1890 or 1891. It was built in 1890. And this says, pictured above is the new Mission Church at Parnell, which was dedicated Sunday, November 26th. Some will recognize the building as the old Yankee Point Methodist Church. The exterior has been changed some since it was moved to Parnell. The new church is located 1 block east of the Parnell High School. Hattie was over this PM. She is feeling pretty well, but looks pale and tired. Works too much and goes quite a lot too. She is president of WSCS and feels that she should attend to the business that is hers to do.
Bye, Jackie.
Bye, Alan. Her Aunt Jenny Harper came back later this PM. She has been in Minneapolis for a visit. Expects to go soon to California. The English Valleys History Center promotes the rich history of the communities within the river valleys of the North, Middle, and South English rivers. It encompasses an area roughly served by the English Valley School District, from Deep River to near Parnell and from Watcher to Kinross. This also includes the communities of Millersburg, North English, Webster, and South English. Please send donations to the English Valleys History Center, P.O. Box 70, North English, Iowa 52316. My feature story today is Carter, Iowa, and Yankee Point, Part 2. The Carter families in the English Valleys area originated in Washington County, New York, with 2 brothers, Asa Carter and Benjamin Carter. Asa and Benjamin were the sons of Jedediah Carter and his wife, Armilla Birch. That name Armilla is important because it gets passed down through the generations. Benjamin and Asa Carter were born in 1809 and 1811 respectively, and it says here that their family originally was from Scotland. Asa Carter, shown in this picture, married Hannah Bramer, and they left New York and settled in LaSalle County, Illinois, near Streator, Illinois, in 1844. His brother Benjamin Carter, my ancestor, died in New York at the age of 36 and is buried in Butler County, New York, near his in-laws, William and Hannah Parrish Bramer. Benjamin Carter's wife was Anna Bramer, who was the sister to Asa Carter's wife, Hannah Bramer Carter. After Benjamin died, Anna brought their 5 children westward, first to Illinois, near Asa and Hannah Carter, where she married William Raines, a minister. and then on to Iowa County, Iowa, with all of her children. And here's a picture of Mr. Raines. That was taken from an old tintype that I have. The children that came to Iowa with Anna and William Raines were William Carter, who was already married to Harriet Holden Carter, and their baby Edgar. And the rest of the children who were still at home with Anna and William. They were Stephen, Oscar, Jacob, David, and Armilla Carter. There's Armilla. Anna and William Raines had a baby named Charles Raines, who was born in Iowa and died as an infant. The Bramer girls had another sister named Sally, who married Josiah Warner. The Warners also settled near North English, Iowa, and are the ancestors of Carolyn Warner Elwood and Mary Warner Crunit and their families. The Warners had been in Michigan before they came here, along with other Bramer and Carter family members. Asa Carter and his wife, Hannah Bramer, did not come further west than LaSalle County, Illinois. However, their son, Edwin Carter, did make it to Iowa County, where he resided near his Carter relatives until he decided to go even further west to Letcher, South Dakota, along with many of his children from his two wives, Sarah Turner Carter and Elizabeth Norris Carter. But 3 of his older children stayed in Iowa County, including Esther, who married William Wallace Moore, and Cynthia, who married Herman Woodard, and Asa Joseph Carter. Cynthia died at age 41, and her husband, Herman Woodard, went on to marry Doris Sprague. Herman and Doris were the grandparents of Joanne Ritchie and her brother, Donnie Woodard, who lived in North English, among others. Esther Carter was married to William Wallace Moore, and resided in North English. She was a friend of Lib Wade's and the mother of Charles, George, Raymond, Hazel, and Abby Moore. Her oldest son, Charles Moore, was married to Maud Teresa Claypool. Maud Teresa Claypool was the daughter of Lib's cousin, John Tabor Claypool, and many of their descendants live up around the Belle Plaine area today. Asa Joseph Carter, Edwin Carter's son, who stayed in Iowa County, had 2 wives, Laura Wirtz and Florence Rogers, and some of his children stayed around Iowa County. Asa and Florence are buried at the North English Cemetery, and his first wife, Laura Carter, is buried at Yankee Point Cemetery. One of Asa's sons, Milton Arthur Carter, was married to Goldie Pickenpaugh, and they were the parents of Rita Claire Carter. Milton Carter died in the 1918 flu. Goldie later married Louis Robew and was the mother of Jean Robew Harris from South English and her Robew siblings who attended school in North English. Asa Carter's daughter, Rella Carter Arnold, was a teacher at Yankee Point and later moved to Arizona. She was a valuable resource to me when I first started genealogy, as she was 90 years old at the time and had a keen memory of when she taught and was raised at Yankee Point. Asa Carter's son, Wallace Carter, married Catherine, or Katie, or Kit Hardy, and he was the father of Junior Carter from North English, the grandfather of Beth Carter, who lives on East Oak Street in North English, and her brothers. Catherine Hardy Carter had 2 sisters who married Carter men that were descendants of R. Benjamin Carter. These sisters were Lila Cobb and Jessie Carter. More about that in another chapter. Wallace Carter Jr., or Junior Carter, and his brothers are shown here. They are Milton, Junior, Eugene, and Lester. My faithful listener from New Jersey, Chris Carter, is Lester's son. The girls in the Wallace Carter family were Jessie S., or Susie Hughes, and Catherine M., or Marvel Smith, and Laura Carter Smith, who was married to Lester Smith Sr. and was the mother of Lester Smith Jr., who was our handyman when we lived in South English. Laura Carter Smith was also the mother of Louis Smith, who was married to Rita Scanlon, and Richard Smith and James Smith. Asa Carter's other children included Forrest Rogers Carter, who died of the flu in 1918 at age 16 and is buried at Yankee Point Cemetery near his half-brother Milton Carter, another influenza victim. Another Asa Carter child was Esther Carter Flory, who helped me with genealogy long ago. She was married to Glenn Flory and raised her family in the North English area before moving to McPherson, Kansas. Her sister was Ruth Carter Gosnell, who lived in Iowa City. And her brother was Asa John Carter Jr., known as John Carter, who also lived in Iowa City. And another sister was Martha Smith Carr of South English, who was the mother of Raymond or Rammy Carr, and his brothers James, Charles, and Gerald Carr. Other children of Asa Carter were Cecil Edwin Carter and Florence Olive Carter, who moved to Colorado, and others. That's Cecil Carter there. The next time, in Carters of Yankee Point, Part 3, we will tell a little of the story of Anna Bramer and Benjamin Carter's daughter, Armella Carter, who married Franklin Puttybone. Correspondence. I had a nice chat with Sue Walrab at the car show in Belle Plaine on July 3rd. She is featured in the diaries quite a bit, and she was known as Suzanne Kurtz in those days. She is Lib's oldest great-granddaughter. Mark Claypool from Sigourney wrote and said, "You always hit a home run every week. Jackie, you continue to be the outstanding historian that is always spot on." Carrie Mahana Boone from Florida said, "How adorable. Sam is so cute. I love what he said to you. Kids say the darndest things, don't they?" Susie Allison Lumberg from Iowa City said, "Oh, my heart, how sweet of little Sam. Great job, Jackie. It's always interesting to listen to excerpts from Lib's diary. I went by her gravesite again today, and although I obviously never met her, I feel I know her through you. It is also nice to be reminded of Don Hall. He often came to our home to service our appliances as I was growing up. I still remember his smile and laughter. Such a nice man. So fun to have the young ladies visit today and share their excitement about the grand reopening of the pool. Great things happening in my hometown." Yes, Sam, I'm saying hi to you again today. Louise Ballard Davis from Marengo said, "Enjoyed your broadcast today. You do such an amazing job." The next alumni luncheon will be at the Main Street Pub and Grub on August 31st. Please contact Alice Stramer or Linda Carter for seating. Our sympathy today to Mary Ann Fuller, who was Mary Ann Harris from North English High School in 1953. Mary Ann was married to Richard or Dick Fuller from the class of 1951. And here is a picture of Mary Ann with her husband, Dick Fuller. Here is a picture of Mary Ann with 5 generations in her family. Mary Ann Fuller, Shelley Crum, Amy Westfall, Carissa Westfall, and Presley Swearingen. Our sympathies today to the family of Jan Ridout from my own class, the English Valleys High School class of 1973. Jan lived in the Omaha area for many years. We also remember today Robert or Bob Wilkerson from the class of 1968, who passed away in Florida this week. Bob and his twin brother Bill came to North English when their parents moved to North English, where their father Dean was the town policeman. Dean Wilkerson was the oldest son of Bill and Hattie Wilkerson, who lived on Smoky Row or East Washington Street. In this picture of the Wilkerson grandkids with Bill and Hattie, twins Bob and Bill Wilkerson are in the back row on the right. Bob served in Vietnam as a paratrooper after he left North English before moving to Florida. Our sympathies today to the family of Deborah Brown of Sigourney, who passed away this week. Her name was Debbie Caskey when she was a member of the English Valley High School class of 1970. 2026 programs. The next program at the English Valley's History Center will be Farming on the Oxbow by Dr. Alan Hogue on next Sunday, July 19th at 2 p.m. All programs at the History Center are free of charge and treats are provided. Donations are always accepted. Set against the backdrop of the Roaring Twenties, Great Depression, and Dust Bowl, this compelling narrative reveals how one Iowa farm family weathered the most challenging periods of the 20th century through unwavering Methodist faith and steadfast determination. Come and enjoy a most interesting presentation. Visit with the author and enjoy some complimentary treats and refreshments in our community coffee shop. We are also interested in learning about historical English Valley's items that you might wish to donate to the History Center. Please contact Dave Jackson, Scott Romine, or any board member to donate. And I'll be spending the morning now talking to Trish Matras Garrity, who's back in town from Florida. And I'll be looking at this quilt too to see what other names I can find on it. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.